and we want to maximize results. You just want to maximize. We're so greedy. We want more, but with the least efforts, time and money. كنا طماعين في الدنيا هاي. We are all very much greedy. We want more out of the little effort that we can spend. Marhaba, and how's it going, everyone? For those who are new to the show, this is Yuwab, a space dedicated to have answers, to calm your mind, empowering your workplace, and trust me, eventually, it will leave you in a great state of mind to unlock your full potential. I'm your host, Saeed Alghafri. And let me just express how grateful I am for having you here and you allocating the time to hear me out. Today's episode, or today's topic, this is everyone's that I speak to favorites. Everyone wants to have, and everyone I speak to, they blame one thing for it, and that is time. And it's by far the most topic I coach people on. And when I speak to most of the people, is they really confuse it with really time management. This is something that we all want to have. Why? Because, we want to do the things that we love. And most of the things that we enjoy. And for some of us, we really want to create that impact in the world. So today, it's going to be more on how can we be more productive. It's all about productivity. What will happen? This will be a series. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to detail each element because, as we said, this is a system and it compromises of few things that we're going to talk about in the next few weeks. Yeah. So today, the first thing that we're going to touch on is what is really productivity. The second thing, why people struggle with it. And I'm going to share with you a formula on how you can be productive and how can you sustain it over time, because it's not only being productive, but you have to sustain it and come back to it whenever you want. All right. So let's start with what is really productivity. Some people think that it's just doing a lot. All right. But it's not only that. You want to do a lot, but you want to do it well. And also you want to have quality in it. And you want to do it on time. So it's not one of those things. It's all of the above. So imagine today you're working on one goal. And I see that in companies. And tomorrow you talk to your shareholders and they say, you know what? That X, which is your goal, multiply that by 10. So it's now 10X. How can you really do it? It's not going to be easy. Now, this concept is very much applicable on people, me, you, or anyone else. It's applicable on plants, teams, or even companies. All right? So the answer is why we cannot really be productive. Let me tell you something. I remember the first time I did my resume, and I continued doing that over time. And I see a lot of people brag about that. There is like a section where you have skills, and I write multitasking. I'm multitasking. Trust me, if you're just thinking about multitasking itself, it's fantastic. You can do a lot. Don't get me wrong. We need people to do a lot where they are today. But you want them, as I mentioned, to do a lot, quality, and on time. So you need to hit that target because eventually that's what we are there in each company. So can you really do a lot in the same time? The answer is, as I mentioned, yes. But again, what will happen? That will really drain your energy like nothing. And again, when I say drain your energy, it's not only the physical part. The physical part is really very important. So I'm now talking about myself or a person. Now take that to a company where it's a lot of people or a machine. Yeah, it gets really, really complex. That's what we're going to talk about today. So productivity is actually 4 things. And these 4 things are kind of a wholesome approach. It's not like one thing or the other. The first thing is, and that's the definition now, efficiency. So efficiency is doing things in less time, resources, and efforts. So that's efficiency. So that's the first part of the definition of productivity. The second is effectiveness. And effectiveness is doing things well. Quality is very important. Very important, especially when you work in a company with shareholders in a competitive environment. And we want to maximize results. You just want to maximize. We're so greedy. We want more, but with the least efforts, time, and money. كلنا طماعين في الدنيا هاي. We are all very much greedy. We want more out of the little effort that we can spend. And that's why when you look around today, you see that technology is helping us maximize our potential, maximize our efforts. Let me tell you something. When I gauge my productivity, it's very simple, really very simple, because I know myself, I know how efficient I can do, I can manage, I know how much money I have, I know that I have my own deadlines, etc. When you go to a company and you have people and you want to lead those people and you've got a shareholder that you want to maintain or satisfy, it gets really difficult. It's not easy because then you need to be present and you need to gauge how productive your team can be in a situation. Let alone that you are going to basically have tough situations. So when you have, let's say, a crisis, competition, something is happening. So presence is very important. And that's why you would want to maximize productivity. And the last thing, as I mentioned, when you talk about the definition of productivity is hitting our goals. And that's the most important thing. Now, the second element of today's episode is why do people struggle with it? All right? Listen, productivity is not an easy thing to follow. It's not an easy thing. As I mentioned, it's a wholesome approach. All right? Now, in a day, you can basically be very productive, let's say within that 1 hour. And then the next 30 minutes, you're just dead, or not literally dead, but you're just not in the mood to basically conduct any more jobs. So it varies over time. It could basically go up for 10 minutes, it could be down, and that's absolutely normal. Absolutely normal. But, and what is really important here is how can we control it? How can we really control it? And that's why we are here today. So what I'm going to share with you now is some of the examples or some of the stuff that people share with productivity. The first one is this lack of clarity. Now, you see a lot of people in a situation where they actually don't know why they're there and what are they doing and how and by when. So they're sitting in the desk and they're just doing. So the priority there is really missed, honestly speaking. And again, when you are in such a situation by yourself, it's really not good. Imagine you're in a company or you are with your family and you're not clear. So you are reach a situation where everything is important, everything. وبتقول في خاطرك والله ما في شيء مش مهم. لا يعني come on, there's nothing in life that says that everything is important. يا أخي, go to a hospital. When you go to a hospital, not everything is emergency. Yes, when we walk into the hospital, me or anyone else, God forbid you don't do that, your situation is very critical to you. But again, there are people there who can examine you and know that whether it's critical or not. So reality is, the lack of clarity for people is something that makes people struggle with productivity. The second thing is, and I get that a lot of people say we don't have time. Of course you will not have time if you're really not clear, and honestly you're basically not very much understanding what productivity is. So people come back to me and say, Saeed, we don't have time, or we don't have resources, or I am thin on resources. You know what will happen is you will end up not doing anything in life. So the second thing is here, people struggle with time and resources. The third one is you are really tired. As simple as that. You are burned out and you are fatigued. You as a person. You feel like not doing anything. So how can you be productive, man? You can't. You can't. You cannot. Take that even to yourself, to a group of people. You guys will not be productive. And that's why I always bank on well-being. This has been always my focus, because without that, you're always going to be tired, or you're going to be frequently tired, and you don't want that. Now take that to a company. Imagine you're burned out or you're fatigued. What will happen? Imagine you're leading your team and you're in this situation and this state of mind where you need to make a decision. How the heck are you going to do it? You cannot. You really cannot. And since you're the leader out there, how are you going to measure the energy of your team? How are you going to measure their productivity? And how are you going to basically supporting them or analyzing or doing any of that? You cannot. You really cannot. And trust me, you cannot hide your feelings. And I see a lot of people holding their head, or basically blushing, or basically shouting. Honestly, people are smart and they can read it. So that burnout thing and you being tired is not good. So it has a consequence on you and on other people. So that's why this is one of the things that people struggle with. The fourth one is, and this is really tough. I see a lot of people, don't even want to start because they are afraid that they will fail. They have that anxiety that they're going to fail, and eventually they don't even start. Or they want things to be perfect. What happens is it leads into fear, and you are going to just delay and delay and delay, and what will happen is you're not going to do it, or you're just going to delay that deadline. And I see this a lot. I see it a lot. And this is not good, especially in a place where it's really competitive and you're competing with other people. Yeah. So this is very important. That fear that you're going to fail is something that I see people doing. And my last one, and this is actually my favorite, is distraction. Phone calls, messages, emails, social media. Oh my God! Now the platforms that are there are just ridiculous. And then the obligation to comment, the obligation to like, the obligation to share. It's not good. I mean, honestly, this is just distraction. How could you do any deep work around that? You're not gonna do it. You're not gonna do it. If you even ignore all that, all right, you're just on a deep work. And this is something you cannot stop. Imagine you're working, your boss just comes in. You can't just let him get out, man. You cannot. Comes in and say, hey, listen, man, this is a new task. Come on, I'm working on these and you're giving me this. So reality is, this is also a distraction. So how could you say yes to this and no to that and yes to that and no to this? That's basically something that I see people struggling with. So these are some of the struggles that I see people go around when it comes to productivity. Now, is there such a formula that we can use to be productive and sustain it? Absolutely, man. There are plenty out there. But I would like to share with you something that I've learned when it comes to productivity, and I learned that in my coaching certification, and it really supported me. Whether it's myself, my company, and everyone around me. So, productivity, in simple term, is clarity. So, you being clarity, and I'll talk about that. Energy, focus, system, and then the last one is the fifth one is take away distraction or minus distraction. Okay? And as I mentioned before, they have to go together. They're not separate. Forget about it. It's a wholesome approach. And that's how can you be productive, and that's how you can sustain it. All right? So let's, for this episode, talk about it briefly. And as I mentioned in future episodes, I'll talk about it in details. So the first one is clarity. And that's our starting point. Now, the first thing is, you will have to be clear on what you're doing. And this is critical. Imagine, for some reason that you land on the moon. Just, you're there, you just flew to the moon and you landed. You have no agenda, you have no guidelines. What do you think you're going to do? You can't just sit idle. You'll have to do something. You'll play with the sand. You're going to play with yourself. You're just going to do anything because that's our nature. That's our human nature. We can't sit idle. Or if you don't have anything at work, you know what will happen? Gossip will start, right? I know it's cool. But again, and I'm not really trying to encourage it, but you don't want that. Gossip sometimes, and most of the times, is really not good. So clarity here is very important. And when we talk clarity, it's all about the what, the why, the when, and the how. So you have to start with the what. And, this is something like you're trying to achieve something, all right? And in companies, it's like a mission statement. It's like, I'm here today to, for example, bake a bread or, make a strategy. Or maybe someone like me, I'm there to basically gain weight, for example. I want to go to the gym and do that. Now, once that target is clear, or that mission, you don't stop there. You need now to populate the tasks needed for you to do that mission. All right? And most of the people I speak to is, you tell them, okay, let's go to the moon. They say, okay, no problem. I'm experienced and I know how to do it. Experience is fantastic, man, but not alone, my friend. If you're alone, no problem. You can do it by yourself. But when you go through a team, you have to explain, you have to communicate the process. And that's why I'm not trying to take away experience, but again, very important is you need to go through the what very clearly to ensure that you explain that to the other people that you have within your team. The second thing is the why, and this is super important. Why are you really doing it? And most of the companies, they call that the purpose, your existence as a person. And again, I spoke about that in the past. This is what really motivates you. When things go bad, this will lift you up, nothing else. And again, think of it as, for example, it could be a bonus, okay, by the end of the year. I don't know, I'm just saying, or for that specific thing that you're trying to hit. It could be for that specific promotion that you want to have. Something that is motivating you, or it could be for anything as you're trying to create a value, if you want to put a meaning to that. Or it could be also winning a new contract for companies, because that's your existence as a company. Let me tell you something. I am known to be a person who love to challenge the status quo. I love to challenge the current status. Now, I always walk around my team and say, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Even if we basically did it yesterday, I always say the why. And honestly speaking, I do that on a purpose. I do it because I want to stimulate that growth mindset in people. And guess what? When I do that, and I basically start asking people, not to the point where I challenge, all right, to the point where I'm trying to stimulate some of that growth mindset, I see that aha moment within that person. It's like that lamp on the top of your head that, oh, shoot. It's like you figured out another way to do it. And again, what happens is next time they do it better and they save time. So that's the what. So that's the why. The when is also very critical. Everyone I ask is, Saeed, 5 دقائق, 5 minutes. Inshallah, الحين. Come on, man. It doesn't work this way when you go to companies. What happens is you found out that it's not done, and then you'll have to chase and remind people. And this is where accountability becomes very important. And again, when you look at people, everything for them is important. So how could you do the one then? You can't do it. So it has to be something that we need to process very well when we talk about the when. So when you have a team, look at it this way. Some people are morning people or or let's say early afternoon, or sometimes some of them are late night. So they'll give you the most. That's where when you lead the team, it's very important to gauge who's who. You can basically do the same for everyone. For me, for example, I'm an early morning person. You are going to see the best work from me in the morning. All right? That's why it's important to make things realistic and practical. That's why the when is very important. And this is where it gets tricky when you go to companies. And as I mentioned, when you juggle between so many things, let's talk about tactical or strategy. Which one are you going to do first? That's why the when is so important. All right? That's the when. Now, the how. This is where most of the people I speak to jump to. They just ignore the what, the why, the when, and just go into the how. And again, that's the last thing that you should do, even if you know it, even if you're experienced. All right, because the word is changing. Things are technology is changing the word. So assume that you haven't done it, even though you're experienced. You haven't done it, and trust me, experience will make you do it faster this time compared to the previous ones that you do it. You're just gonna enjoy the process. All right. And that's going to be something that you need to keep in mind when you have targets. Again, I'm not trying to tell you, okay, take your time, do the how, etc., and ignore the shareholder expectations. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. What I learned in my meditation or mindfulness practice is that this beginner's mind, when I look at anything, and that really helps me always evolve my process or my thinking process. It's amazing when you basically think of it this way. So don't jump to the conclusion. Don't jump to conclusion like everyone else. Go through the process, look at it from a beginner's mind, and you're just going to enjoy it. And again, don't really ignore shareholder expectation. All right? So for now, that's what you need to do. Once you have the how, list it down. All right? It could be resources, it could be delegating, it could be hiring a third party, it could be anything else. Very important is you list it and then you action it. And that's where I talk about doing a thorough process when you go through the whole aspect of clarity. All right? So that's clarity. That's the first component of productivity. The second component is my favorite, energy. All right? So that's all about, can we really do it? And how is our well-being capacity? And I always come back to the fact that well-being or my energy is the one that will push me forward. Now, when I talk about energy, there are a few things that I'm going to leave you with. The first one is sleep. And sleep is very critical, very much undermined. And people usually jump into taking supplements or taking something to give them that energy. Trust me, without sleep, you cannot basically have energy. You may think you can by having a supplement or anything else, but usually sleep is number one, without any doubt. The second thing is I see a lot of people just bouncing from one task to the other. You cannot do that. You need to basically have breaks. And as we mentioned, as human beings, we need to understand our break work cycle. 10 minutes work, 30 minutes break. Shall I take annual leave after a very strategic project, etc.? So that's how you can recharge your energy again. So breaks are very important. The third thing is your food and fluid. And how are you fueling yourself? You can't really fuel a car with water. It's not gonna drive. You need to give it gasoline, and it's a proper gasoline. So naturally, is this something that you need to look at? And I'll talk about that in future episode. The fourth one is mental. Are you really stressed? Are you going through a situation? Yes or no? Stress could be very damaging. All right. And it's not going to only impact you. It's going to impact all the people around you. Now, tell me something. How are you going to go around that? Without energy, forget it. Now, that's why you have to take care of yourself. All right? And then when you basically take it to the people around you or anyone else, if you're not energized enough, you cannot achieve your tasks. That's why people very much undermine this. And for me, this is basic when it comes to energy. When you're young or younger, I think you have enough energy when you come with that. But as you age, energy becomes very important. And that's why preserving it becomes very critical for those who wants to drive. So that's energy. The third component is focus. And it's all about how can you sustain it. Now, no one can come and tell me we can work for 24 hours. No one can do that. You can wish for it, but you cannot. Take even 8 hours. No one can do it. I haven't seen anyone in my life that can work continuously for 8 hours. Now, most people I've seen, they can sustain focus for maybe 30 minutes. When I say focus is deep work, they're really giving you their attention. 30 minutes, 1 hour, 10 minutes. So reality is you will have to figure out that span. But again, after that, you need to take a break. If you don't, forget about it. You can, in that 10 minutes, you can listen to music, read a book, check your social media, check whatever you want so that you can have that break and then come back to work again. You want to recharge yourself because you're draining energy. And reality is you're bouncing from being present, being focused, being engaged. And trust me, this really drains your energy. And then that's why you want to bounce between that and being relaxed, taking a break, etc. And I talked in the past about back-to-back meetings. Oh my God, how could you do that? You can't. You really cannot do that. And imagine a company, one transformation to the other transformation program. And I'm talking about really a heavy transformation. Very difficult. You have to take a break in between. All right? I'm not saying it's not workable. It's really workable. But you're not going to be focused. No one can guarantee that you can be focused if you do that. Now, that's basically the focus element. Once you go through the clarity, energy, focus, then we come to the system. And a lot of people basically straight away look for a system. You basically need to go through the above and then look for a system after that. Let me tell you something. I sometimes just jump to a system straight away. I list my stuff, or I say, okay, this is my system. I list my tasks, and I end up doing only 20%. Why? Because I just jumped to a system or a tool. You have to go through the steps I mentioned above. It's a process, and it's not something that you have to do on a daily basis. It could be a weekly, it could be for a specific project, and then you're going to get used to it. All right? Once you do that, then you come to your system. So the first thing in your system to consider is it has to be simple and not complex. Don't complicate stuff. We love to complicate stuff in our life. Sometimes the solution or the task is very simple. Move on, man. So keep it simple. There is this KISS thing, which is keep it simple and stupid. I love it because that's the first thing when it comes to a system. The second thing is, once you do that, record it in whatever way you want. You can even tattoo that on your arm. So record it. The third thing is, make it. Now you say, okay, that's your priority when it comes to that, and when and how and who. It's very important. Once you go through it, then this will be very easy for you. And the fourth one is, this is something very interesting, and I encourage you to do it. Make a list of the stuff that you are supposed not to do. All right? It could be something like, I'm not going to touch my phone. Or I'm not going to touch my hair. Or I'm not going to put lipsticks. Whatever the case is. It could be anything. But again, I'm not trying to encourage you not to answer your boss. All right? So reality here is, this is something that is going to happen. Or maybe your partner, you don't want to sleep in the street. The reality is. So reality is, make that list. Make it a genuine one. And trust me, once you go through that process, you are going to be amazed, and you're going to be surprised of the stuff that you're doing, but you're not supposed to do. The fifth one here is one at a time. Small steps, and always include a break or relaxing time. And the last one is, create a boundary around it. All right? Create a boundary. And we're going to talk about distractions. But again, it could be creating a boundary around emails, maybe a frequent time for you to check your email, telling people that you're going to work here, and then explaining to people that if you do this, no one speaks to me. And again, you can always say no in a respectful way. And sometimes what I like, if I'm in a deep work, is I like to wear a headphone noise cancellation. That really helps me a lot. All right? So once we do all that when it comes to productivity, the last thing is, you have to take away the distraction. Now, let me just picture for you how this looks like. Now, imagine you are working on something and you see this nice little sound from your phone, or let's say something, or a pop-up message, like you see it on your phone. How tempting is that? I remember when I started my LinkedIn journey, and I saw all this red circle with the number of messages and notification to 99, or I was very much tempted to go and check it out, honestly, irrespective. So this is very much tempting. So you will end up reaching out to your phone. Or imagine you're working and you see that very nice sugar glazed donut in front of you. Oof. You're definitely going to eat it. Or I used to do that in the past, especially when I was working from home, is you're tired and you're working next to your bed. What do you think will happen? You're just going to go and sleep. That's exactly what you're going to do. And, social media is a big distraction. As I mentioned, you are definitely guaranteed a great journey, but you're not going to be productive. So make a list of all the distraction and try to avoid them. If it's your phone, just put it on a no disturb mood. It's there. I do that most of the time. Or just try to silence all your notifications. And I talked about how I did that, especially, in my LinkedIn. If it's your boss, I know that's a very difficult one. Once you gain that confidence and trust, very important is talk to them and try to see whether you can reach a good ground. You don't want to upset your boss, yeah? But again, you can always talk to them. If it's a colleague, tell them, listen, man, when I'm wearing my headphones or doing that, please don't talk to me. I'm trying to basically do this specific task. List them down and try to put strategies around them. Test those strategies and try to see how you can minimize it. So this is the framework that I feel is very much something that will help you to enhance your productivity. And every time you see yourself not productive, just go back to the elements we mentioned. So if you're not clear, all right, go through the what, the how, the why, and the when, and just try to stress test it. If you're not energized, look at your sleep pattern. Look at the stuff that are happening to you. Look at are you stressed? Look at these stuff. If you're not focused, check yourself. Are you really working continuously? Do you need to take a break? Is it a good time now to take that annual leave? And then check your system and how complex is it? Is it simple? Did you basically have boundaries around emails? Is everything important for you? And the last one is, are you minimizing distraction or you're not? Go through that, and then you're gonna basically end up by sustaining productivity. And again, I would love to hear your views and opinions on how you can be productive in your life. So please share them with me here or in my LinkedIn account. So this would help me in my also learning journey process. All right. So until next time, thanks for being with me. And I'd really like you to take care of yourself and those who you care about. And if you find this episode very beneficial, please like or share and also subscribe to my channels. You can find me on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify for now. مع السلامة.